Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another episode of Commander Cheapskate Reviews. And on this episode, we will be taking a look at Necromunda's House of Chains, the brand new supplement that goes more in depth for the House Goliath gangers for the Necromunda gaming system, published by Games Workshop. And as you can see in this edition, this is the electronic version. I'm opening this up on iBooks. And we're going to be taking a look exactly at this product, what it entails, what kind of features about it, and whether or not it's a good buy for you to use in your upcoming Necromunda campaigns. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the introduction real quick. It says, on Necromunda, only the strong survive. It is a world built upon the bones of the weak, each crumbling layer of ash choked with the corpses of those who tried and failed to tame the toxic planet. To be born into the crushing press of humanity of the hive cities is to be fighting from your very first breath to your last. Air, food, water, and light are all hungrily consumed by the subjects of the Imperial House, and there is never enough to go around. To not just survive, but to thrive, one must be a magnificent specimen of violence and a creature of single-minded brutality. Such is the Goliath. It is a creature born of the bones of the vanquished and the ash of past civilizations, a Gene Smith conqueror without pity, remorse, or fear. For the cruel necessity of the imperial tithe were the men and women of the Goliaths made, ash and iron their cradle, the toxic world of Necromunda their birthright. And of course, we got a skull with some spikes sticking out of it because, let's face it, it's not really a Goliath supplement unless you have spikes coming out of skulls for that one. So as you can see here for the introduction text, this one, the entire book is actually dedicated to House Goliath from Necromunda. So let's go ahead and talk about the table of contents real quick. So as you can see here, here is the table of contents for the entirety of the supplement, and I'm going to be honest with you, there is a lot, I'm once again stating this quite a bit, there is a lot of information that's in this book. It's actually quite dense. Not gonna lie to you guys on this one. And it's kind of neat because the way they've arranged this book and the fact that they plan on doing this for every single house that you can play as a Necromunda, it kind of gives me a lot of hope on this one, that it looks like they're really committing to this product line and really fleshing it out in full detail. It's kind of like slowly but surely Games Workshop has been rolling out more information about Necromunda, and this could be kind of considered a soft re-release or a soft edition change for Necromunda, and the reason why is because the way they've kind of, laid out the gang for this one. So like I said before, this entire book is a supplement that's dedicated entirely to House Goliath, which is one of the most popular houses with the game. And as you can see in this table of contents, there's actually quite a lot of information on here. A majority of it is, of course, from the next 40 pages based on fluff and lore and content about House Goliath. We're really not going to go into detail about that too much. It's a very entertaining read. It actually goes into the background of Goliath and actually does quite a bit in order to expand the universe of Necromunda. They actually talk about other hives that exist besides Hive Primus on the planet. They talk about the different districts and actually the territories that the Goliaths occupy. It's actually kind of neat how they kind of learn about doing that. So there's a lot of backstory involved in this. If you're really into that, that'd be a perfect section for you to look at. For me, though, the part that really fascinated me the most were the rules. And as you can see here, there is quite a bit of information dedicated to just the rules portion of this book. Quite a lot of going on here. So for example, if you talk about the House Goliath gang list, they actually quite go in depth with it even more. Originally, when the game of Necromunda came out, you had leaders, champions, gangers, and Jews. Those are the four types of fighters that you had in your game when you first bought up. As you can see in this list here, there is actually quite a bit more involved this time around as well. For example, as you can see here, your Forge Tyrant, for example, that's the new name they've given to the leader of the gang. Your Forge Bosses, Stimmers, Forgeborns, and Bruisers, these guys are all kind of like the different champions that you can buy for your gang as well. The Bruiser, I'm sorry, is like your ganger. It's like your typical ganger, while the Goliath Bully is more like your Juvie, is how that pretty much works out. And so because of that, there's a lot of information about these, and actually go more in depth with it here in a second, and they actually show you what kind of weapons they have, brand new weapon, brand new equipments that you can use for these gangers and for these different fighters in your gang, and it goes more in depth with it. Like I said, it's kind of like a soft update to or addition change to the game, because now this is the future of what Goliath list will look like, and it's actually quite in depth, gives you a lot more options to choose from, and we're going to talk about that here a little bit more about that in a second. And then, of course, you have your new list of hanger-ons and brutes that you can hire for your gang as well. There's some brand new ones like brute handlers, kim dealers, and pit trainers. Now, these ones are not necessarily exclusive to Goliath, but other gangers can hire these people at a cost penalty. They have to pay more money in order to hire these kind of individuals as well. As you can see, they go a little bit more in depth on the different hanger-ons like gang lookouts, sloppers, ammo jacks. They go quite a bit in depth more on that. Same thing with your new servitors for Ogryn servitors, as well as ambots and all kinds of good stuff. So lots of good things there around there as well. At the same time, for the hired guns section, they actually give a little bit more detailed information about hive scum and bounty hunters. So that's actually kind of good. They actually go more in depth about them and the game mechanics surrounding them as well. And probably one of the neatest additions they've added is this new rule now with house agents. So these are guys who are like operatives who actually serve the House of Goliath, who come down from their headquarters to help out your gang to accomplish missions and things. And you can actually make your own custom characters if you don't want to use the Dramatis Personae characters that they provide. So that part is a really neat game mechanic that they've also added as well. Like I said, it's kind of like they've taken all these concepts before and they just kind of, put it together real quick so that way you can use it for your games. But now that they have time to actually spend going more in depth on it, there's a lot more depth of knowledge, a lot more content and rules and stuff associated with them, and it's actually quite cool. Another thing they also talk about as well as the alliances system. These alliances systems, of course, have been released in the Book of Peril, where you could actually ally yourself with different guilds. The Book of Judgment also introduced outlaw alliances as well with different criminal organizations. As you see in this book, they actually give you some information about like how they've actually made alliances with these different houses. For example, they have a very strong relationship with the Slave Guild. They also have a strong relationship with the Narco Lords because of the illegal chemicals they use to create their gangers and their members of their house. You also have a Fallen House as well. They give you all kinds of different things like this. The Greater House of Necromunda was like the noble families and how you ally yourself with this house and the support they can give you as well. Very, very cool for that part as well. Now, another thing they have up here is the additional rules section here. This part is actually kind of cool as well. They give you some subplots that you can use for your campaign, as well as house favorites. That way you can gain more reputation and experience for your gang. The biggest change, however, is this brand new skill. So before when you had the bronze skill that was available in the Necromunda rule pack, that's originally what everyone kind of started off with. They've actually made a whole new skill called muscle skills, and that part is really cool because they have more in-depth rules. For example, one of the special rules you use for muscle skills, for example, is that your character, one of your fighters, can just ignore the effects of flesh wounds affecting their toughness. But once they run out of flesh wounds, of course, they immediately go out of action. That's like one of the new skills they have. Another skill they also have is that whenever one of your fighters is fighting unarmed, they get +2 to their strength as well as +2 damage for fighting unarmed. So these are different, really cool, different like new rules that they've added to the muscle skills that just kind of makes your Goliath gangers even deadlier as well. And probably another really cool feature on this is what is known as the gene smithing. In case you're unaware, according to the lore for the Goliaths are actually not born traditionally. They're like artificially enhanced, like in gene forges, kind of like how Space Marines are kind of made, and that's why the Goliaths are so much bigger and stronger than their other counterparts. And you could actually go into and actually using vat-born fighters, natural-born fighters, or unborn fighters, you could actually give them upgrades to your gangers, and actually it costs credits to do it, but you could actually do this. So you could actually increase their intelligence, their willpower, strength. You can give them special abilities. It's really cool because it just adds another layer of customization options that you could have for your normal fighters. They've really expanded the roster of different fighters you can use in your gang, and this kind of adds another additional customization to it, which makes it super, super cool. For example, there's a Goliath bounty hunter that's a Dramatis Personae. He's got like a 4-up intelligence. The reason why he's so kind of special is because he's like more intelligent than his normal Goliath counterparts. He's a special character came from the original rule sets. Well, you could actually recreate that character if you want to by actually enhancing their intelligence if you want to, which could be really helpful for taking initial intelligence checks for hacking doors or other things. It's just really cool how they included that. Another rule set that they've added is new Goliath terrain as well. So, for example, if you're fighting in a territory that you're defending, you could have like a rivet gun, for example. There's actually a new terrain piece with weapons on it that you can use to defend your territory with. All kinds of cool new features on that as well, which is really cool as well. Same thing with specific house scenarios as well. You could use in your campaigns and new rules for scenarios that feature really good for Goliaths. So, for example, if you should roll up on the random table that you could choose what scenario to play and you're a Goliath player, you could definitely choose one of these scenarios to use in that, which is really, really cool as well. Like I said, there's a lot of in-depth stuff that they've done for the Goliath gang, and if they do this, the same kind of mechanic for every single gang in Necromunda, oh, this could be awesome, because you'd be able to do exactly the same kind of thing and have cool specific features for your gangs. It makes it really, really diverse and really interesting as well. Like, I'm super excited to see exactly what they do for all the other gangs. I play Caldor, for example, and I'm really excited to see exactly how that would play out for them. It's just really in depth how they did this for the different gangs and stuff, which is really, really neat. And not to mention, this book also gives you a bonus gang that you could also use for your campaigns as well. It's called a Slave Ogryn gang, is what it's called. It's kind of similar to the pit slaves from the classic era of Necromunda. If you've ever played Necromunda before this edition, there used to be these characters called pit slaves. These were humans who were cybernetically augmented to act as gladiators and to act as laborers for the different houses in Necromunda. And sometimes these slaves would escape and band together and make their own gangs. Well, take that, but apply that to ogres instead, and that's what you have here. So as you can see here, it gives you rules for your gang composition on that. It tells you about the different types of Ogryns you have. Like, for example, your overbosses are your leaders. The underbosses are kind of like your what you call it, kind of like your champions, whereas your slaves and lobo slaves, or lobotomized Ogryn slaves, they're kind of like your gangers as well. And they have their own sets of weapons and equipment and things of that nature they can use as well. So it's really, really cool. Just really awesome that they've actually included that as well. And also, of course, they have a new weapons reference chart for all the different weapons and equipment that's available to all the members of both the Goliaths as well as the Slave Ogryn list. So that part is really cool as well. And probably the coolest thing in this book is the Goliath gang tactics section here. As you can see here, they actually have this part here where they actually talk about the gang tactics. Before, when you had to use gang tactics, you had to buy a deck of cards. If you didn't get the box set, you had to buy a separate deck of cards to use for gang tactics, and actually this time around they actually provide them as well. And we'll go more in depth with this with the review. We'll actually go into these different sections and show you different things of it to talk about. But just to give you guys a little hint about what it's about, imagine a table is what it is. You roll 2d6 and you roll for your tactics, and they actually give you the name of the tactic as well as what it can do. So instead of having to buy cards, you could just have this neat little reference sheet that you can use in order to play that as well. So that part is really cool. And of course, we have our dramatis personae that's spread throughout the entirety of the book. We have a giant three-headed sump croc that you could use for your sump croc that you could use for your gang. You also have a couple of members who are different bounty hunters and scummers you can hire up that are different Goliath operators as well. You could also have some Ogryn slave bounty hunters. So all kinds of cool stuff are in this book, and it is really, really neat, all the different things they've done. So with that being said, let's go and go a little bit deeper about the information. So first of all, let's go and talk about the Goliath gang list real quick. So you can see here, they provide you a lot of information about how to operate your gang, just like always. Lots of rules, sets, and things of that nature as well. They talk about what happens to your leaders and things. But like I said, like for example, if you look at this, they actually tell you what your leader now. Your leader is no longer called leaders, now called a Goliath Forge Tyrant, what they call it. They got their stats, their costs and credits. They got special rules associated with those guys as well. At the same time, they actually show you the skills they could use, the equipment they can purchase, and as you can see here, they actually have an entire list of things that you can get for your gang leader. And then not only there's that, but also, for example, your champions, they do exactly the same thing as well. As you can see here, they give you all that information about your champions as well as the things that they can do as well. So that's just an example of some of the information that they have when it comes to your fighters. Okay, so you have all your different fighters and the different things you can do. It's really cool in that part as well. Same thing with the brutes and hanger-ons as well. As you can see, they got you the same rules about brutes and hanger-ons. They talk about how you can hire those guys as well. And as you can see here, like for example, this brute handler, this is the guy who can help train up your brutes for your gangs. Now for the Goliaths, this guy only costs 55 credits. Now any other gang can buy him as well, but it costs 110 credits. So as you can see, there's got lots of special rules for this and what they can do for that. And that part is actually really awesome as well. So that way you could also use that in your games of Necromunda as well. So you can hire additional hire-ons and, you know, add a lot more variety to your different gangs. And like I said, they've done this for all of these, which is really, really cool in my opinion. It's just really awesome. Same thing with the Hive Scum and Bounty Hunters. I mean, you've seen those rules before, nothing new there. But like the House Agent, for example, you can choose what you want to have. The fee to hire these guys depends on a couple of situations when you might use it for it. So they give you some like special rules about those guys and things that they can do as well. So that's another thing about that part. They have some rules, of course, about establishing your alliances, and they have actually house-specific rules associated with those as well. Same thing with these muscle skills. You can see exactly what they consist of as well when you click on those. It's kind of neat. Like, for example, gene smithing, for example. This is the one I was talking about earlier. You can actually figure out what type you want, how much it would cost, and actually have the different things that you can do for each of your upgrades depending on what you pay for. So that part is really awesome as well, which makes it really, really cool. And then, of course, you have your Ogryn gangs now that you can actually hire up. In fact, if you were to click on this one here, it actually shows you how they're compromised, you know, what they consist of. Once again, they give you a new leader, the special rules with that person, the equipment they can purchase, the skills they can access, that kind of thing as well, which is really neat and really awesome on that part too, which is really, really cool. And then, of course, we have our weapon reference charts as always. And like I said before, the gang tactics, which is probably the coolest part on it. When you click on it, you roll your D66, you can see what you have there, and you got your different rules and stuff associated with it as well, which is really, really cool. A nice little mechanic to add on there, considering the fact that, you know, you don't have to buy cards anymore, which is kind of nice, because that's one of the reasons why my channel never featured gang tactics before for our battle reports, because we just didn't feel like buying the cards to do it, so because we're cheapskates on this channel. But yeah, that's pretty much the contents of this product, and this is pretty much my comprehensive review about the House of Chains on this one. My recommendation, it is an extremely good buy. I suggest you buy a copy of it, especially if you run a Goliath gang. I recommend you buying it as well. If you're an arbitrator for your campaign, I would recommend buying it just because they provide a lot more information for your brutes and your hanger-ons as well. Also, it kind of gives you some background information about things that you can do for your gangs as well. Like I said, it just depends on really what you do. If you are a Goliath player, I definitely highly recommend that you buy this because it'll help you, you know, with all these different new things as well. And if Games Workshop, and this book is like kind of like a preview of what's to come for the different gangs, because, you know, Games Workshop community has talked about, Warhammer community has talked about how these books are going to be released for all the different gangs. It's going to be super exciting to see exactly how they kind of make things different and how they kind of add up. It's kind of cool because it's kind of like updating and a new addition to the game, but not really doing it too much. And by re-releasing everything, it's just kind of like a here's an addition to that. You know, you could use these rules if you want to in your campaign, you know, so you don't necessarily have to buy if you don't want to. If you just want to run the typical rules with just the rules that you have provided right now, that's perfectly fine too. That's entirely optional. This is also entirely optional as well. In fact, one of the things they talk about when you read this book is that these rules are optional if you want to use them, or you can just keep on using the normal game if you want. So it's just really about your personal preference and what you're excited about. For me, this was a really good purchase for as far as I'm concerned. My buddy, Brother Grimm, who's the Goliath player, is really super excited to see exactly what he can do for his gang with this one, and we're really looking forward to see exactly what we do with the future of Necromunda with this. So yeah, that's going to do it for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Instagram, Facebook, as well as blogger.com for all the latest, greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. You guys stay classy. We will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.